Picture this. It's 1987 and the Jurong Shipyard IPO has just launched. A line of eager Singaporeans stretches as far as the eye can see, all waiting for their chance to own a piece of the action. The DBS building is bursting at the seams with mountains of paper forms, and the staff are working around the clock, frantically sorting ballots, allocating shares, and signing refund checks. Welcome to Singapore's Firsts, the podcast where we uncover the stories behind Singapore's most groundbreaking achievements. I'm your host, Xing.
And I'm Jaan. Fast forward to 1993, a pivotal year when DBS transformed the stock market experience with the introduction of the electronic shares application, ESA, or ESA as some call it, making it easier than ever for Singaporeans to invest. Today we'll explore how this innovation turned the IPO process from a logistical nightmare into a streamlined dream.
That's right, Jaan. ESA was introduced during the largest initial public offering in Singapore's history, the Singtel share issue. This wasn't just a financial event. It was a huge shift in how everyday Singaporeans interacted with the stock market.
Let's paint the picture a bit clearer. In 1993, the Singapore government launched a scheme to help Singaporeans own shares, especially in privatized statutory boards. Singtel, then known as Singapore Telecom, was one of the 8 entities to be floated on the Stock Exchange of Singapore.
Just imagine the buzz. Owning a piece of Singtel, which was a monopoly in the telecommunications industry then, was a big deal. It was a significant moment for many Singaporeans, a chance to be part of something big. But back then, applying for shares was an extremely tedious process. You had to physically queue up at the bank, sometimes for hours. First, you'd to pick up the application form and request a cashier's order. Then, you'd fill out the form and submit it with the cashier's order to complete your application. And let's not forget all the manual work the bank employees had to do when processing these applications. To give you a glimpse of what the process was like, let's hear from Mr. Kanshik Lam, a DBS veteran who had a front row seat to this transformation as part of the ESA task force.
You have to come to Shenton Way or any of the branches, collect a form, fill in, submit it. And then if you're unsuccessful or partially successful, you have then wait for the refund checks to come to you. And when refund checks come to you, you have to bag it in again. So can you think of the time involved and the cost involved and so on?
Wow, Singh, that sounds like quite a hassle. No wonder there were long queues snaking out of the DBS building on Shenton Way during major IPO issues before the ESA was launched.
Exactly, Jaan. In another interview, Mr. Khan even described handling the hugely successful Jurong Shipyard IPO in 1987 as, and I quote, more like a nightmare. That IPO drew nearly 10 billion Singapore dollars in application monies from almost 320,000 applicants who subscribed over 145 times the number of shares offered. Nearly all the meeting rooms in the DBS building were filled with mountains of paper forms. Harried staff had to carry out the ballot, allocate shares, and then sign refund checks for the balance of shares not allocated to applicants.
So just imagine the response to the Singtel IPO. A whopping 1.75 million letters were sent out to eager Singaporeans, inviting them to grab Singtel shares at a discounted price of $1.90. The demand was off the charts. The bank definitely had to come up with new ways to handle such massive IPOs.
Let's hear from Ms. Elsie Foh, a DBS pioneer who was then a senior vice president in retail banking. She shares more about the ESA and how it came about.
The whole thing was to replace the need to go to the bank to withdraw money. The whole of Singapore would be just involved in this Singtel shares purchase. And can you imagine 1/1,000,000 people and all the other banks will be involved? There'll be long queues everywhere. How are we going to manage this? At the same time, we have many ATMs. Together with the other local banks, we have 1,000 ATMs. So we thought very hard about it and we said, why don't we let them use the ATM and apply for the Singtel shares?
Sounds simple enough, but I can only imagine rolling out ESA wasn't without its hurdles.
Definitely not, Jaan. There were quite a few bumps along the way. Let's hear from Mr. Khan again. He's got insights on the challenges they faced while implementing ESA and how they overcame them.
The concept was originated by my seniors, the bosses as well. I was given the privilege and challenge of forming a task force to put all this together. Essentially, it involves our colleagues on the technology side, our legal colleagues, both internal as well as external. And although they're not part of task force, our counterparts in the stock exchange were involved as well. It's not just confined to DBS. It involves a larger group of people who are receptive and prepared to take the challenge, because it's never been done before. We had to do some dry runs, so to speak, test first, make sure it works, that it can be carried out seamlessly. Dealing with the authorities, the stock exchange, the MAS, and obviously there are a lot of legal challenges and hurdles that we have to overcome. It's just getting people to accept something because it's totally novel and not tested before. I'm very glad that the MAS in particular was very enlightened and was prepared to take on this new product.
It's astounding how many people and departments were involved to make ESA a reality. They had to conduct dry runs, ensure all safeguards were in place, and get the green light from regulators. It was a massive team effort.
Just imagining the coordination needed makes my head spin. So, how did the public react when ESA finally launched? Let's hear from Ms. Fo again about what the launch day was like.
Well, first of all, before that, we didn't have much sleep. How can we encourage more people to use the ATMs? So we had all the branches, especially the branch managers, we briefed them and it helped a lot. It didn't happen as badly as we had envisaged it to be, because many people were convinced that the ATM would do the job.
It's amazing how quickly the public embraced this new system.
Absolutely spot on, Jaan. But what made ESA such a runaway success? Mr. Khan is here to shed some light.
Singaporeans are very practical people. If you save them time, save them money, save them the hassle of getting the money back and so on, it catches on very fast. For national interest, we were nudged to share the concept and the know-how with the other local banks. It's for the good of the country. You make it really convenient for the population with time. Over 90% was done through the ATM for IPOs. With the success of ESA, then the next question is that why can't we extend this to even secondary fundraising, be it rights issue of shares, be it even placement of shares? So this will then introduce for the other forms of fundraising. And by then, more people are computer literate. Over time, this was also carried out via the internet as well, which makes it so convenient.
The adoption of ESA by other local banks, which enhanced accessibility and convenience for everyone, truly shows the collaborative spirit and forward-thinking mindset of that era. The success of ESA wasn't just a one-off. It was part of a broader push for innovation.
Exactly, Xing. The introduction of ESA was just one of many initiatives that DBS was working on at the time. Let's hear from Ms. Fo about some of the other innovations the bank was rolling out.
During that time, there was a push for innovations. There was a start of nets, where instead of paying cash and all that to your merchants and all that, you could use the FPOS machine. That was also a great innovation. We had great exposure to working with the vendors, the people who produce the machines. They would share with us all their capabilities. There was a lot of reading, and sometimes we would make trips overseas to look at innovations. We restructured the retail banking and had a team that focused on the IT innovations, e-banking team, we call it. We were in the forefront where we looked at the customers and we knew that the customers would benefit from these services. Our end goal was to be able to handle customer service in a more productive way.
It's fascinating to see how one innovation led to another. The success of ATMs and FPOS machines paved the way for ESA and other technological advancements, creating a ripple effect that transformed the financial landscape.
Indeed, Xing. None of this would have been possible without the visionary leaders behind these innovations. They championed these projects and gave the team the freedom to innovate. Mr. Khan shares some great insights about the leadership and sense of purpose that drove the project forward. Let's hear from him.
My big boss then was Tan Sunan, who was champion for this, and obviously Eric too, my immediate supervisor, was very supportive. He gave me a free hand in running this project. What basically helped is the sense of purpose given. I think that's very important. I'm not a brainchild of this, but working together with colleagues within the bank, it was indeed very fulfilling.
It's clear that strong leadership and a shared vision were key to the success of ESA. This project wasn't just about tech wizardry, it was about elevating customer service and making the financial system more efficient. In fact, the ESA empowered more Singaporeans to conveniently participate in the financial market.
It also set a precedent for future innovations in the financial sector. The success of ESA for IPOs led to its extension to other fundings, making the financial system more accessible and user-friendly.
It's truly inspiring to see how a single innovation can have such a far-reaching impact.
As we wrap up this episode, let's reflect on the significance of this innovation.
It's a powerful reminder that when people come together with a shared vision and purpose, they can accomplish remarkable things.
That's all for today's episode of Singapore's First. We hope you enjoyed this journey back to 1993 and the story of how Singapore's first electronic shares application came to be.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and catch our next episode.
Until next time, keep innovating and breaking new ground. My name is Xing.
And I'm Jaan. Thanks for tuning in to Singapore's Firsts.